Chosen one, this isn't coincidence. This isn't algorithm or accident. You were led here because heaven circled this moment long before you arrived. There's something that's been developing quietly behind the scenes, and now it's pressing forward, ready to be uncovered. There are times when God moves through dramatic displays, through fire, momentum, undeniable motion. And then there are sacred seasons where He speaks through stillness, where distractions fall away so the message can come through clearly. This is one of those sacred pauses. Anointed one, you are standing at the edge of a transition that didn't happen overnight. It's been forming slowly, intentionally. What you've sensed beneath the surface wasn't confusion. It wasn't stagnation. It was construction. Scripture talks about appointed times, moments for planting and moments for revealing. You've stepped into a kairos window, a divine time frame. What was hidden is beginning to rise. What felt restrained is starting to move. Heaven doesn't rush transformation, but when it unfolds, it carries weight. Chosen one, you're not here for entertainment. You're here because something shifted in the spirit and required your focus, your awareness, your reverence. This is a threshold. Old cycles are loosening their grip. A sharper clarity is forming. The interruption you felt today wasn't inconvenience. It was divine timing stepping into your schedule and saying, "Pause. This matters." Anointed one, when God pulls someone aside, it's never to reduce them. It's to protect what's developing within them. Some revelations can't survive constant noise. Some assignments can't be understood while surrounded by voices that don't align with your future. That's why this feels personal. That's why it feels intentional. That's why it feels like confirmation, not just information. In seasons like this, faith isn't sustained by loud explanations. It's anchored by a quiet knowing the heart can return to when everything else feels heavy. That steady reassurance? It's already there, waiting beneath the surface. Support it. Like the message, so it reaches more people who need grounded encouragement instead of hype. Subscribe if you want more content that strengthens your mindset, not just stirs your emotions. Let's aim for 5,000 subscribers, not for vanity, but to build a community focused on growth, clarity, discipline, and real transformation. Chosen one, you've been drawn into a silence you didn't request, a separation you couldn't explain. But this is where elevation begins. God reshapes those He intends to raise. You've wondered why everything feels stripped down, why certain voices faded, why some relationships dissolved without warning. But what looked like loss was actually insulation. God narrowed your external world so He could expand your internal one. This stage of development is reserved for those being prepared to carry something greater, something that doesn't belong to crowds or constant commentary. Anointed one, I've walked through a season like this myself. I remember asking God why people I trusted suddenly felt distant, why conversations became surface level, why I felt out of place in rooms that once felt safe. Later, I understood. God wasn't removing people from my life. He was moving me into a space they weren't assigned to enter. When I surrendered to that truth, clarity came like sunrise, and that same clarity is rising for you now. Right now, God is drawing a clear boundary between who you were and who you're becoming. He's quieting the noise that once shaped your reactions so you can respond from discernment instead of fear. You've outgrown certain spaces. What once entertained you now exhausts you. What once felt normal now feels restrictive. That's not burnout. That's elevation. Heaven raised your spiritual sensitivity. And anything that doesn't resonate at that level begins to fall away. The discomfort you're feeling? It's evidence of recalibration. Anointed One, here's a hard truth. The people who understood you yesterday may not recognize you today. Not because you changed your vocabulary, but because God changed your assignment. Spiritual promotion comes with protection. And sometimes that protection looks like reduced access. That's why some connections feel distant. That's why your need to explain yourself is fading. You're not isolating. You're repositioning. What God is building in you can't be constructed in front of people committed to the memory of your old self. Chosen One, subtle tests have surrounded you. Conversations brushing against old insecurities. Comments that seemed light but felt heavy. Questions that carried an undertone you couldn't quite name. Your spirit recognized it before your mind could process it. God saw every one of those moments. He saw the motives behind certain smiles. He saw the pressure designed to pull you back into old reactions. And in a quiet whisper to your spirit, He said, "Enough." What heaven is doing right now requires restraint more than rebuttal. Not because your voice lacks strength, but because it's being reserved for something greater. There's a difference between reacting emotionally and speaking with authority. God is teaching you authority. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you dismantle an attempt to delay your growth. Delay is the only tactic left when destiny cannot be denied. The enemy can't cancel what God ordained, so he tries to slow it. But your discipline has already disarmed that strategy. Chosen One, you may have felt guilt for protecting your peace. Guilt for stepping back. Guilt for becoming less available. Hear this clearly. Boundaries are not betrayal. Distance is not cruelty. Silence is not rejection. You're not abandoning people. You're obeying God. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming consecrated. You're stepping into a dimension your previous version wasn't built to sustain. And obedience rarely makes sense to those who don't share your assignment. Anointed One, I learned this painfully. There was a time I apologized for guarding what God was shaping in me. I felt guilty saying no, guilty choosing quiet, guilty declining access, until someone told me, growth feels like abandonment to those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. That truth reshaped me, and it's reshaping you. Soon, the haze will clear. The quiet will break. What's been hidden will surface. Not because you forced it, not because you argued your case, but because God reveals what needs to be revealed. Motives will become visible. Intentions will rise into the light. And you'll understand why silence was necessary. If you had defended yourself too early, your words might have been twisted. If you had confronted prematurely, your truth might have been distorted. But because you remained steady, heaven now stands as your witness. Anointed One, this revelation won't come to humiliate anyone. It will come to liberate you. It won't be about exposing others. It will be about establishing clarity. When truth emerges, you'll know exactly who can walk into your next season and who cannot cross that line. That clarity is the gift. Chosen One, you are standing in the narrow space between the former and the future. And heaven is shaping you with precision you may not fully comprehend yet. That's why things feel unfamiliar, why your desires are shifting, why your discernment is sharpening, why your boundaries feel stronger. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding the survival version of you, so the assigned version of you can rise. Transformation feels strange because it carries both grief and awakening at the same time. Something is ending. Something greater is beginning. There's a stage every chosen vessel must walk through, a hallway season, One door quietly closing behind you. The next not fully opened yet. Suspended between identities. I know that hallway. I've stood there when everything stable seemed to collapse at once. When what felt secure dissolved without warning. And in that in-between space, it felt like loss. But it wasn't loss. It was restructuring. And Chosen One, that restructuring is happening for you right now. Relationships shifted. Doors you expected to stay open quietly closed. Daily rhythms you relied on suddenly unraveled, and for a while you questioned yourself. You wondered if you were the problem. But later, God made something clear. You weren't breaking down. You were being set apart. And that same sacred separation is happening for you right now, Chosen One. There's a reason this transition feels tight and uncomfortable. You are stretching spiritually. And whenever something expands, whatever was too small to contain it has to give way. What you once tolerated now unsettles you. What used to amuse you now exhausts you. What once felt normal now feels out of place. That's not instability. That's elevation. God has raised your internal standard. And anything that doesn't match that new alignment can't cling to you the way it used to. Heaven is guarding your spiritual capacity so your discernment can mature without constant interference. Anointed One, think about the recent moments when you felt uneasy but couldn't explain why. The subtle heaviness around certain people. The shift in your energy in specific environments. The quiet nudge in your spirit saying, take a step back, even though everything looked fine on the surface. Those weren't mood swings. They were alerts. Every chosen person goes through this spiritual recalibration before stepping into greater authority. God sharpens your perception before He announces your promotion. Chosen One, the enemy has noticed this shift too. That's why pressure has been building, but not in obvious ways. Not dramatic attacks, subtle ones, distractions, emotional static. Old habits trying to lure you into familiar reactions. Every time you found peace, something tried to disturb it. Every time you chose restraint, something tried to provoke you. Every time clarity came, confusion tried to creep in. But here's the truth. Agitation often signals acceleration. When heaven prepares to lift you, opposition tries to sidetrack you. Anointed One, the enemy cannot cancel what God has already authorized, so he attempts to postpone it. Delay becomes the strategy. And delay usually comes wrapped in emotional entanglements, mental fatigue, relational tension, anything that nudges you out of alignment long enough to slow your progress. But without even realizing it, you've been dismantling that strategy. Every time you stayed quiet instead of reacting, you disarmed something. Every time you prayed instead of argued, you disrupted a plan. Every time you honored the calm inside you, you aligned with heaven's design. Chosen One, your silence has echoed louder in the spirit than any defense you could have made. That's why God has been emphasizing stillness. What He's building in you cannot be entrusted to someone ruled by impulse. It must be carried by someone who responds from authority. God is retraining your reflexes, strengthening your posture, conditioning your emotions to handle greater responsibility. What you're learning privately will sustain what you carry publicly. Anointed One, I know guilt has surfaced at times. Guilt for stepping away. Guilt for protecting your peace. Guilt for not over-explaining. Guilt for evolving beyond expectations. But that guilt isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're outgrowing old emotional contracts. You're no longer making decisions based on who feels comfortable. You're making them based on who God is calling you to become. To some, that shift looks selfish. In heaven, it's called maturity. Chosen one, release that guilt. Your obedience is not up for negotiation. Your assignment is not a group decision. You are not responsible for managing the feelings of those who preferred the unhealed version of you. You are not required to shrink so others feel secure. Your responsibility is to protect what God is forming inside you. And what He's forming requires quiet, separation, consecration. Anointed one, a moment of unveiling is approaching. There will be a divine revealing where hidden motives surface, where intentions become clear, where atmospheres are exposed for what they truly are. You won't need to argue. God will vindicate. You won't need to defend. Truth will stand on its own. You won't need to explain. Clarity will speak. And when that day comes, you'll understand why heaven guarded your silence so fiercely. But there's more. Chosen one, lately there's been a weight on your spirit. Not a crushing weight, but a holy one. The kind that makes a room feel different. The kind that stills your thoughts unexpectedly. The kind that whispers, "Pay attention." That's not heaviness. That's proximity. God is drawing closer and guiding you into a season where your life is shaped less by outside commentary and more by divine direction. What you're carrying now cannot be influenced by opinions, assumptions, or emotional chaos. This chapter has been sealed by heaven. Only those aligned with your destiny will truly understand it. Anointed one, there was a time when you tried to analyze every shift. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so different? Why don't I connect like I used to? But now you're learning something deeper. To discern without dissecting. To know without over-justifying. To trust without constant evidence. There comes a stage in every chosen life when logic becomes too small to contain what God is doing. You've entered that stage. What's happening inside you is spiritual architecture. Invisible, precise, intentional. Chosen one, God has already begun rearranging your internal structure. You've felt waves of sensitivity followed by unexpected clarity. You've felt old emotional patterns rise, not to defeat you, but to show you what's finally being removed. Memories surfaced, not to trap you, but to free you from cycles that cannot enter your next chapter. Heaven does not expose wounds to harm you. Heaven reveals them to heal you. Anointed one, I've walked this road. There was a time I kept encountering the same triggers repeatedly. I felt ashamed, thinking it meant I hadn't grown. But God showed me something different. He wasn't highlighting weakness. He was uprooting it. He allowed the old reactions to surface one last time so they could be completely removed. And I sensed that same uprooting happening within you. This time, the trigger didn't rise to break you. It rose to leave you. Chosen one, this is why the silence has deepened. God is shielding you from voices that would misunderstand your transformation. Not everyone can recognize a miracle while it's still under construction. Not everyone can discern anointing while it's still being forged. And not everyone is entitled to access the version of you that God is elevating. You are being refined, protected, positioned. And when this process is complete, you won't just feel different. You'll be undeniable. When heaven raises someone up, it doesn't just elevate them, it shields them. What feels like isolation is actually insulation. What looks like pulling back is really purification. Anointed one, the transformation happening within you is now spilling over into your outer world. And you've noticed it. People are responding to you differently. Distance has replaced former closeness. There's tension where there used to be applause. Hear this clearly. When you rise spiritually, relationships reveal their true foundation. The light growing in you exposes what was hidden in others. Their discomfort is not evidence that you failed. It's confirmation that you no longer fit environments that depended on a smaller version of you. Chosen one, heaven is teaching you a new way to relate. No more shrinking yourself to keep things smooth. No more over-explaining to secure approval. No more carrying emotional burdens that were never assigned to you. You're stepping into maturity where silence becomes strategic, discernment becomes defense, boundaries become obedience. This next level demands clarity that can't be negotiated away through emotion. Anointed one, part of the reason God has drawn you into hiddenness is because what He's placing on your life has become spiritually sensitive. When promotion is near, financially, relationally, spiritually, God often conceals before He reveals. He separates. He reduces visibility. He allows transformation to unfold without contamination. Just like a seed breaks open underground before it ever pushes through soil, your breakthrough is happening beneath the surface before it becomes public. Chosen one, here's the strange part. You can feel something significant approaching, yet nothing around you confirms it. Your spirit is louder than your circumstances. Your inner conviction outweighs visible evidence. That's because heaven always announces change internally before it manifests externally. You're sensing signals from a future God has already prepared. One He's aligning your steps toward quietly. Anointed one, the enemy senses it too. That's why confusion tries to creep in during still moments. Old doubts resurface. Fear whispers at the edges of your thoughts. He can't cancel what God is releasing, but He hopes to make you question it. Because if He can shake your identity, He can attempt to stall your inheritance. But listen carefully. Your doubts have no authority over God's decree. When heaven declares something, darkness cannot edit the outcome. Chosen one, you are nearer than you think, closer to clarity, closer to movement, closer to divine unveiling, closer to supernatural transition. The shaking you feel isn't collapse, it's construction. The waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation. The quiet isn't abandonment, it's alignment. God is handling something so intricate, so exact, that He cannot allow outside interference. That's why this moment feels personal. That's why you're hearing this now. It's protection. Chosen one, there's a kind of weariness you've been carrying. Not physical exhaustion, but the deeper fatigue that comes from holding onto a promise while nothing appears to move. You've felt it. The silent ache beneath your strength. The heaviness tucked behind your perseverance. That inner whisper asking, how much longer? And yet, you haven't let go. That refusal isn't stubbornness, it's anointing. It's the mark of someone chosen to endure what others would have dropped. Anointed one, heaven has seen your quiet exhaustion. The days when your faith remained steady, but your emotions felt thin. When your spirit believed, but your body felt slow. When hope lived on, but patience stretched tight. And still, you showed up. Still, you prayed. Still, you held on to what God once whispered. That's not weakness. That's surrendered strength. It's resilience shaped by worship in the middle of warfare. Chosen one, there are seasons where the silence feels heavier than the promise, where nothing in your environment confirms what your spirit knows is coming. That tension doesn't mean you missed the path. It means you're walking it faithfully. Every chosen life passes through a phase where revelation moves faster than reality. Your spirit hears what's approaching long before your circumstances echo it. And that space, that sacred distance between knowing and seeing, is where God builds endurance that cannot be shaken. Anointed One, don't confuse weariness with being off course. Carrying something supernatural has weight. Even prophets grew tired. Even those called by heaven had moments when the promise felt heavy in their hands. Endurance doesn't mean you never feel fatigue. It means you continue forward while feeling it. And you've done that more times than you realize. Heaven has counted every silent victory. Chosen One, in seasons like this, God teaches a rhythm. Not striving, but returning. Returning to stillness. Returning to truth. Returning to the quiet certainty that delayed promises are not dead promises. Many believers, in their most fragile hours, don't search for elaborate answers. They hold on to one steady word. They open Scripture not to analyze, but to remember. And remembrance anchors faith until manifestation arrives. Anointed One, this is why waiting is holy. It trains you to seek what is stable instead of what is stimulating. It teaches you to walk with God consistently, not only dramatically. It forms the discipline of staying grounded, staying faithful, staying available. You're not just waiting for breakthrough. You're becoming capable of carrying it. Chosen One, I've walked through seasons where the promise felt so close, it almost seemed tangible. Yet nothing changed outwardly. And in those moments, God whispered something that steadied me. Don't confuse slow with stagnant. What appears still on the surface can be moving deeply underneath. What feels delayed may be undergoing refinement. Roots grow unseen, and those unseen roots are what ensure that when the blessing emerges, it won't collapse under its own weight. Anointed One, this extended season isn't discipline, it's precision. God is aligning details beyond your sight, preparing people, adjusting timing, positioning circumstances. You can feel it even now, the subtle sense that things are quietly settling into place, that something behind the curtain is organizing itself. Chosen One, endurance may not look glamorous, but it is glorious. It proves your faith isn't built on emotional highs. It shows your trust isn't dependent on constant signs. It reveals that your foundation is covenant, not convenience. And that kind of faith? Heaven builds kingdoms on it. Your fears lose their power. Your need to prove yourself fades. Your urgency softens into trust. Anointed One, these are not small adjustments. They are internal indicators that something has already shifted in the spirit. Before doors open outwardly, structures stabilize inwardly. Before favor becomes visible, identity becomes unshakable. You are not the same person who first prayed for what is coming. And that is intentional. Chosen One, heaven does not upgrade your surroundings before upgrading your capacity. What you are sensing right now, the stretching, the refining, the quiet rearranging, is preparation at a cellular level of your spirit. Old patterns cannot carry new weight. Old insecurities cannot steward new influence. Old survival habits cannot manage new abundance. So God has been dismantling gently, layer by layer, not to strip you, but to strengthen you. Anointed One, that strange emptiness you've felt at times, that in-between space, it's the corridor of transition. You've outgrown what was, but you haven't fully stepped into what will be. That space can feel disorienting, but it is sacred. It's where identities shed old skins. It's where appetites get purified. It's where motives are clarified. You are not lost. You are recalibrating. Chosen One, notice how your cravings have changed. Things that once felt urgent now feel optional. Validation that once fueled you now feels shallow. Noise that once entertained you now feels distracting. That is not boredom. That is refinement. God is adjusting your taste so you hunger for what aligns with your calling, not what merely comforts your history. Anointed One, Some opportunities were withheld not because you were unworthy, but because you were being reinforced. There are blessings that, if given too early, would have overwhelmed the version of you that existed then. Divine timing is not delay, it is protection. Heaven does not pour new wine into old wineskins. You were being expanded. Chosen one, you've already crossed a spiritual threshold. You think you're waiting for advancement, but advancement has already occurred internally. You think you're anticipating a shift, but the shift has begun. The way you respond instead of react, the way you pause instead of panic, the way you discern instead of chase. That is evidence. You are no longer driven by fear. You are no longer propelled by insecurity. You are guided by alignment. Anointed one, there is a steady anticipation rising in you now. Not frantic, not anxious, not desperate, calm. It's the quiet certainty that something is assembling without your effort. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to compete for it. What is aligned with your name will not bypass you. What heaven authored will not be reassigned. Chosen one, the promise often begins speaking before it arrives. You feel it in your rest. You sense it in your chest. Your dreams subtly adjust. Your prayers deepen without effort. That's not imagination. That's invitation. Anointed one, you've also noticed something else. God's voice has grown softer, yet clearer. He no longer needs to correct loudly. A whisper is enough. A nudge is sufficient. That is maturity. Heaven does not shout at those who have learned to listen. Chosen one, your environment is simplifying because your assignment is clarifying. Fewer conversations, but more meaningful. Slower pace, but sharper focus. Less noise, but more direction. This is not isolation, it's precision. God is removing your appetite for spaces that no longer honor who you are becoming. Anointed one, refinement becomes personal here. The habits that once felt harmless now feel heavy. The attitudes you once tolerated now feel draining. The distractions you once entertained now feel loud. And without needing explanation, you simply know, I cannot go back. I cannot shrink again. I cannot lower myself there. That knowing is not pride. It is elevation. Chosen one, God is shaping you to carry authority without arrogance, confidence without cruelty, power without forgetting the wilderness that formed you. He is strengthening your backbone while softening your heart. That balance is rare. Anointed one, the mirror he's been holding up lately, the honesty you've been forced to face, that is preparation. Where your peace leaks, where your boundaries wobble, where your emotions overextend, not to shame you, to fortify you. There are levels coming where clarity will be essential, blessings that require emotional steadiness, opportunities that demand spiritual sobriety. He is building that infrastructure now. Chosen one, the restlessness you've felt, that quiet frustration when you sense potential but cannot yet touch it, you are not behind. You are synchronized. Before God places something in your hands, He settles something in your heart. Before He expands your influence, He stabilizes your identity. Before He releases abundance, He dismantles scarcity thinking. Before He promotes, He disconnects you from what would mishandle your elevation. This is orchestration, not accident. Anointed one, breakthrough signs appear internally first. Your fears weakening, your desires maturing, your urgency calming, your trust deepening. These are spiritual contractions before birth. You are closer than your fatigue suggests, closer than your circumstances confirm, closer than your doubts admit. If this message resonates, don't just scroll past it. Acknowledge what God is stirring in you. Like this, as a sign of agreement. Subscribe so you stay connected to what heaven is revealing in this season. Let's set a faith target of 5,000 new subscribers, each one representing another life aligning with purpose. And if this word strengthened you, share it with someone who is quietly carrying a promise. Chosen one, you are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are not delayed. You are being aligned. And when what has been written in the unseen finally steps into visibility, it will find you ready. The best is yet to come. Chosen one, what you're describing is the language of transformation. When confidence grows quietly, while circumstances stay the same, it means the foundation has shifted. Real change rarely begins with noise. It begins with alignment. You're right about something powerful. Breakthrough often starts internally. But here is the grounded truth that keeps this healthy and strong. Internal growth is preparation. External results still require wisdom, action, and discernment. Confidence growing quietly? That's maturity. Peace replacing pressure? That's regulation. Clarity replacing chaos? That's integration. But none of those mean life will suddenly unfold without effort, challenge, or complexity. It means you are better equipped to handle what unfolds. There's a beautiful psychological truth hidden inside what you wrote. When desire turns into calm expectation, it often means anxiety has loosened its grip. You're no longer striving from fear. You're moving from steadiness. That's not supernatural takeover. That's emotional resilience. When you say, you are not reaching anymore, you are receiving. A grounded way to understand that is this. You're no longer chasing validation. You're positioning yourself wisely and letting aligned opportunities meet preparation. That's powerful and practical. Now, let's gently balance something important. It's inspiring to say, what is for you cannot be missed. The enemy cannot stop what is ordained. Divine acceleration is coming. But in real life, opportunities can be missed if we ignore them. Growth can stall if we avoid responsibility. Breakthrough usually looks like disciplined consistency, not sudden magic. Acceleration often comes after sustained structure. If something unfolds quickly later, it will be because you built capacity, you developed emotional stability, you learned boundaries, you stopped reacting impulsively, you became consistent. That's not mystical promotion. That's earned readiness. The most powerful line in everything you shared is this: heaven is not preparing your blessing. Heaven is preparing you. Translated into grounded truth, life improves when you improve. When your mindset upgrades, your standards rise. When your standards rise, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your outcomes change. That's the real divine timing. Now let's talk about something important. Be careful with ideas like, the enemy is trying to delay you. Opposition means elevation. People shifting means you outgrew them. Sometimes, people shift because seasons change. Opposition comes from natural consequences. Delays happen because timing, skill, or resources aren't aligned yet. Not everything is spiritual warfare. Sometimes it's growth. Sometimes it's feedback. Sometimes it's redirection. Sometimes it's simply life. And that doesn't make your journey less meaningful. The healthiest version of this message sounds like this: you've grown. You've matured. You've stabilized. You've become less reactive. You're more discerning. You're less desperate. You're more aligned with your values. That's real transformation. But don't disconnect from reality waiting for sudden manifestation. Stay engaged. Stay strategic. Stay humble. Stay practical. If doors open, walk through them prepared. If nothing moves, keep building. If fear whispers, respond with evidence, not hype. If restlessness rises, channel it into disciplined action. Confidence without action becomes fantasy. Faith without responsibility becomes avoidance. Expectation without effort becomes entitlement. But calm belief plus preparation plus consistency, that creates momentum. You don't need mystical language to validate your growth. Your maturity is enough. If you want this message to truly empower people, shift the tone from "you are chosen and unstoppable" to "you have grown." Keep building. Stay disciplined. Stay aligned. Stay accountable. That kind of encouragement produces strong people, not just inspired ones. And if something good is coming, it won't just arrive. You'll recognize it. You'll be ready for it. And you'll handle it well. That's the real breakthrough.